G'day there. A quick message before you jump into this video. This video was put together because we have upcoming project with wall on boundary, reasonably extensive project, and I thought there's lots of lessons to learn in this. Building a wall on the boundary. We've done it so many times. There's always lessons in it, and since the making of this video, we've had another scenario pop up, and it's an absolute doozy. It's another lesson for building a wall on the boundary. It's a different lesson, and it's one that I won't reveal just yet. I'm going to let things play out, and then I hope to probably attach that lesson to this video. But in this case, it's like I said, it's a doozy. It's not specific action of building the wall on boundary isn't the issue. The issue lies in where the actual boundary is. Heaven forbid, we've got a land survey, a title plan, certificate of title, all that jazz, and it's being contended whether or not that is correct. So that's the issue we currently have. We're going to let that play out, and I'll certainly be publishing those lessons here. So I hope you enjoy this video. There's plenty of lessons in here for you if you're building a wall on the boundary, especially within the inner city of Melbourne. Enjoy the video. G'day there, Simon Clark here from Sustainable Homes Melbourne and the Sustainable Builders Alliance, and today I'm going to talk you through the number one dispute between neighbours when building an inner city home or home addition. And I can tell you, it's not whose garden gnome is looking at who. I'd like to first begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of this country in which I speak to you, and give my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Now let's dive right in. So, what is the number one dispute when building an inner city home or home addition? Of course, it's property boundary disputes, especially when you're building a wall on your boundary. Now, quick note, the following is not legal advice. If you want legal advice, get your checkbook out of your pocket and go and speak to a lawyer. The information I'm going to share with you is the icing on the cake. It is sweet, but not substantial. For the real deal, tap into the wisdom of experts who can provide advice on your specific situation. I'm an inner city builder in Melbourne, Australia. I'm not a lawyer, and I've been doing this for closing in on 2 decades. So I've seen my fair share of times where it's gone well and times where building a wall on boundary has been a disaster. I've learned a lot, I've got a lot wrong, and that enables me to get more right and less wrong, if you know what I mean. And one thing that might surprise some is that not all people are reasonable. Not all people are unreasonable either. So in this episode, I want to arm you with the essential information, because in my experience, there is a cheat code to ensure you get the best result, especially for your client, the homeowner, and the neighbouring property next door. If you only take away one thing from this video, ensure that it is nobody is your enemy, and least of all your neighbour. And you must work closely with your neighbour to get the best result for everybody. So at the end of the day, building a wall on the neighbour's boundary often means the neighbour should get something out of it too. But building a wall on the boundary sounds simple. It's just a wall, ain't it? Well, it is. Though even if it's clear as mud where your property boundary is, it's still a very sensitive issue when you're dealing with other people and building a wall on your boundary. For starters, the wall just doesn't appear there. There must be ladies and gentlemen that piece this wall together. The wall just doesn't sit on top of the earth. You need to dig a footing for the wall to sit on. And in all my time in the industry, I've never seen a footing dug that hasn't impacted a neighbouring property in some way. So in this video, I want to give you the 3 main building methods for your wall on boundary. Now, this isn't a comprehensive list. It's just the most common methods in my experience. So method one is brick on boundary. Now, brick on boundary has been around since walls were first built on a boundary. Of course, the logical requirement of fire rating has led to more and more adoption of brick on boundary. It's durable and it makes good sense. But there's a bit to explain about brick walls on the boundary. The clearest challenge here is which side of the boundary is this brick wall built on. Now, if your neighbour isn't willing to allow brickies onto their side of the boundary to build their wall, the bricklayers will need to build that wall with a method we call overhand. Now, laying bricks in this way is less than ideal. It's more expensive to lay, and brickies cost a ripe old fortune these days, so the less you have to pay extra, the better. Now, you cannot apply a WRB to the exterior of your timber wall frame. Now, if anyone has figured out how to do this while the bricklayers are laying bricks overhand, please let me know, because I've been trying to for over a decade now. And last but not least, what will be most critical to your neighbour is laying bricks overhand from your side of the boundary. The brick finish will look horrible. Therein lies the key. You see, building any wall on the boundary often means the wall becomes the asset of your neighbour, not yours. Your neighbour's going to be the one that's going to be looking at that wall for the next 100 years, should they be lucky enough to live so long. Therefore, it is in the best interest of your neighbour to ensure that that wall looks as good as it can look. That wall can increase the value of your neighbour's property. Having a solid brick wall on boundary opposed to a typical timber paling fence certainly elevates the feeling of a yard. Now, you may be surprised, but a lot of neighbours aren't so keen on bricklayers trampling into their yard and laying bricks on what they see is their neighbour's property. A few weeks of discomfort is often too much to pay, and the default option is a horribly finished brick wall that they have to look at or deal with in some way for, well, the next 100 years. Now, juxtapose that with your neighbour seeing the value in laying the bricks from their side of the property. Your neighbour will have a beautiful brick wall that in all likelihood will add value to their property. No doubt it will look exceptional from their side. You may even like to let them select the bricks. You will have a WRB on the external of your timber frame, which is exactly where it should be. And you won't be paying an arm and a leg for your brickies to lay their bricks overhand. You'll just be paying a leg, but you didn't need that anyway. Now, method two is a lightweight wall on the boundary, which looks pretty typical to any cladded lightweight wall. Now, you can select almost any cladding for this type of application. It just needs to be applied with an FRL or a fire resistance level system. We like to use Knauf outer wall system. But again, the main thing is what side of the boundary is this wall to be built on? Can you access your neighbour's property to install the cladding on your wall? To be clear, your neighbour has no obligation to allow you or your contractors onto their property. So it's up to you to figure out how best to approach this. Now, if you can't access your neighbour's property to install the cladding, it's best that you select your cladding in consultation with your builder and architect, but certainly your builder. It's going to be critical for your builder to understand how to apply this cladding at the same time that your timber frame will be erected, at the same time that your fire rated system is also being installed. So you certainly need carpenters that know what they're doing.
So you gotta know your stuff, little brother.
A quick plug, we like to use WeatherTex for these lightweight boundary wall applications. As I said, going over the top of a Knauf outer wall system, fire rated system that meets the level of fire rating that's specified. We find WeatherTex, natural range particularly, it's excellent, low maintenance, you don't need to paint or seal it, and you can let it age as good timber should. Though again, if your neighbour is being so kind to let you install it from their side of the property, there should be some give and take, and perhaps your neighbour should have a perhaps selection over the cladding type, or certainly the colour that you may or may not paint it. So method 3, another really commonly used firewall is Hebel. Now Hebel works great. It has great acoustic values and insulative values, and of course it's fire rated. Hebel works really well, I find, in closed cavity party walls, where they act as a firewall between multiple dwellings and will never see the light of day. We've used Hebel in terrace homes up against firewalls on the opposing property, and we were able to cap over the top of that Hebel wall, and the Hebel will never see the light of day, so there's no application required to it. But if Hebel is left in the elements, so it's exposed, Hebel is porous, so it needs to be sealed. And it's commonly sealed with acrylic render. Acrylic render needs to be done from outside of property, it can't be done from inside, so therein lies your challenge. You need access to the neighbour's property. On one occasion, we have been able to seal it with just a simple acrylic sealer, but it's not a good look and not something that I would recommend. So there's your 3 most common methods for a wall on boundary. But the most common theme amongst them all is they will affect your neighbour, and you need to build and maintain a strong and healthy relationship with your neighbour. So get them involved early and get them on side, and there's always give and take in these sorts of negotiations. But just in summary, with all this considered, I would recommend, when access to your neighbour's property is able to be granted, I would recommend recycled brick wall on the boundary. This is long lasting, durable, there's no further maintenance required, and it will become an asset to your neighbour. They can throw the tennis ball against it, they can grow a vine up it, and it will have little to no impact on your property. When access to a neighbouring property isn't obtained, don't leave dog poo on their door, get on with the show and install a lightweight firewall system that the carpenters can install at the same time as the timber frame. Ensure you have carpenters that know what they're doing. When it is a closed cavity, I would recommend a Hebel wall system. Incredibly efficient, doesn't require a footing, and you close that cavity off, and the Hebel will last for generations. Relieve the stress and anxiety and any additional costs that may occur from building a wall on boundary, which is often a sensitive subject, as it's clear that it is the #1 dispute between neighbours. So I hope this has helped. Best of luck with your project. Be sure to share this video, like, subscribe. It helps me get this information out to more and more people. And check out Sustainable Builders Alliance and Sustainable Homes Melbourne, where there's plenty more information like this to come.